It's beer o'clock on Reload Craft Beer. I'm filming my first ever mini documentary. What's the subject? Beer, of course. But it's a funny old subject. It's the subject of pubs. Pubs versus coffee shops. Why have coffee shops boomed since 2009 and a lot of pubs in the UK have closed? 25 a week are closing in the UK. Between 2009, 3,800 coffee shops opened, whilst 4,500 pubs closed. Can you believe that? So we're going to be looking at pubs, we're going to be looking at resorts. I've been to a resort today, my local resort, do a bit of filming down there, talking about why there isn't any pubs on the seafront anymore, why there's so many coffee shops, and we're going to look at why coffee shops are doing so well at the expense of pubs. So what better place to start our journey than at one of Wales' oldest pubs. This is the Blue Anchor in East Aberthaw. It's been open since 1380. Lovely thatched roof. The fire burns bright in the winter. A beautiful old place. And importantly, it's got a selection of fine ales. That's beautiful in the sunshine. And I think that, for me, is one of the biggest topics and the biggest reasons in the success of a pub is the selection of beer these days. Having 4, 5, maybe 6, 7, 8 handfuls on, giving people choice and variety. Another thing is food. This place is now a restaurant on the first floor. It does fantastic food and it's got a fantastic reputation. So I think for the pubs that are surviving and the pubs that are flourishing, they're either chains of pubs, like Marston's chains of pubs, Green King's chains of pubs, or they're very good independent pubs like this, that have built their reputation on good food, good beer, good hospitality, and of course, a really nice sunny beer garden with a nice historic building to go with it all. So let's start our journey by looking at the unfortunate pubs in my local area that didn't make it. Some became shops, or the grander ones even becoming miniature supermarkets. This was my old local. This is where I began my beer journey, working behind the bar in this pub as an 18-year-old. Whilst, as you can see here in the background, some are being converted into apartments, or flats as some people call them. And others have even become restaurants. A lot of them Indian restaurants. Okay, so for the next part of my documentary, we're at Barry Island Beach. Most of you will remember that from Gavin and Stacey. But the reason why I'm here today is to show you on this famous resort of Barry in South Wales, all of the pubs that really should be on the seafront. But in fact, there's no pubs on the seafront. In the last 3 years alone, about 8 or 9 coffee shops have opened. I'm going to go and show you them. So with many thousands of people visiting Barry Island each year, you would expect at least one pub on the seafront, right? Guess again. And another coffee shop that's recently opened. Did you know coffee causes anxiety, depressed mood and headaches if you haven't had it for 24 hours or more? Amazing, really, isn't it? I mean, it's the same as an alcoholic drink. It's a drug. In that category, it's a drug. So why isn't it being regulated like an alcoholic beverage? That's my answer. I suppose the signs are that maybe things are about to change. The government have recently announced that there will be a sugar tax. And that will help because did you know the average Starbucks contains 11 sugars? These two opened just last year. Now, I suppose, is it culture, not just tax, that's causing all of these coffee shops to open and pubs to close? 4,500 pubs have closed since 2009 versus 3,800 coffee shops opening. As I said, these two have opened in the last year. And could it be dated back to a time of television where I suppose in the 1980s and very early 1990s, you had a program in America called Cheers, where everybody congregated around the bar. And then by the time the 90s come along, we had a program called Friends, massive hit all around the world, where everybody congregated around the coffee shop. Was that part of the initial decline of pubs and the rise in coffee shops? I don't know. Maybe. This is the real big one for me. This pub, the only pub on the seafront. Let me show you the seafront a minute. This pub's closed. This wonderful pub on the seafront with areas to sit outside, enjoy yourself, have a pint. Couldn't make it. Couldn't get through. Don't get me wrong, I love my coffee. I love my coffee as much as anybody else. But do I love it more than beer? Would I sit outside for hours on end drinking coffee? Or would I prefer to sit outside and have a beer? I'm just scratching my head just with how society is at the moment. Is it taxes? Is it purely taxes that have caused the decline of pubs in the UK, when it's so much cheaper to drink at home? You can buy a can of regular lager for just over £1 in the UK, and if you were to go to a place like this and buy a pint of lager, you're probably talking between £3 and £4 in 2016. So there's a number of issues, there's a number of questions, and there's got to be a number of answers. But for me, on this lovely sunny day, wouldn't it be better if I was just ordering a pint of beer in this place and sitting outside in the sun? There may be one other cause for the decline of beer in the UK, or not just beer, I'm talking about pubs. I don't want to be confused now with beer. I'm talking about the decline of pubs. One of the major decline in the number of pubs in the UK is that I think that a lot of the pubs sold the same beer. They become zombie pubs. You could go in 8 out of 10 pubs in the UK and they would sell the same beer. Carlin, Foster's, Strongbow cider. And it didn't become a unique experience anymore. This place is about to be demolished and is about to become apartments. What a shame. The British love their beer. They sang about it, they wrote about it, and they drank it in large amounts. In the 18th century, it was not uncommon to have a beer for breakfast. That sounds good to me. As it was the most affordable man-made beverage and was considered healthy and nutritious. It was also safe as the brewing process killed bacteria and the alcohol prevents bacteria growing in it. So back then they didn't know this. They didn't know that actually by the brewing process, by boiling the wort, actually killed the bacteria. There was a lot of cholera, a lot of disease back then, and if people drank the water, it was generally thought of as unsafe. Well, it was unsafe. So what I'm going to look at and what I'm going to ask is, why is beer then being demonised? Why did we stop drinking beer for breakfast? Why did our bosses, why did our employers, why did the business owners decide that maybe one beer in the morning was not the thing to do? And that coffee was? Did you know the regular Starbucks latte has 11 sugars in? Unbelievable. So you're going to get this great big sugar rush, then it's going to die off again, and then you're going to be left all morning working on a bit of a lull. Sounds confusing to me. Scientifically proven that beer actually invigorates the mind, helps your mind. And a beer for breakfast. I'm pretty sure. I'm not saying drink 4 or 5 beers and turn into work slaughtered. But I think it should be considered okay to have one beer in the morning and it not be demonised in the way that it is in present day Britain. We're going to go and have a chat with a local business owner to ask his thoughts on whether he would accept one of his employers turning in and drinking a beer. Okay, I'm in my local Barbers. Say hello, Steve. Steve's the man who cuts this. Well, not this one, I shaved this myself. I want to ask you a question. Is it, if somebody, an employee of yours, turned into work and they said they had a couple of beers, would that be acceptable?
Not at all, not in this trade, because obviously they wouldn't be able to cut hair. I don't think the customers would allow them to cut hair. They could obviously smell it on their breath. And they obviously wouldn't be
able to do their job properly.
Yeah, they wouldn't be in the right frame of mind.
Right frame of mind.
Yeah.
What about a Starbucks? What if one of your employees turned into work with, say, a huge latte? Would that be acceptable to cut hair?
Well, it would be, because coffee is supposed to wake you up in the morning and stuff and all that. But I have a coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
So it gets me going. But specifically a Starbucks, from what I've read in the news lately, that they got 11 sugars. That's not good.
11, that's what I was going to get to next. 11 sugars in your average Starbucks latte. And what happens with sugar is that you have a massive sugar rush and that dies down very quickly. You have fatigue. You could have, if you leave it a day or two without coffee, you're going to have headaches, and there's a lot of other ill health issues with coffee. But what I'm trying to get at here is beer, up until 200 years ago, it was okay. It was common to turn into work. It was a breakfast beer. Times have changed.
I couldn't see myself doing that now, having a beer first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Times change. Things happen. It's just a shame all these pubs are closing down so people can't go in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, thank you very much.
No problem.
Steve's Barbershop in Cadoxton in Barry. And also, one other thing. Red Bull, energy drinks, Monster. Have you seen the ingredients in that stuff? I work in a local supermarket as my part-time job to help fund my channel. And the amount of people in the morning that turn in drinking a Red Bull or a Monster before work is incredible. The amount of caffeine and sugar in these drinks is unbelievable, and there's no nutritional value at all. Not like this stuff, which is packed full of vitamin B. So this brings me to my conclusion to this small documentary. What can we do as enthusiastic beer people to try and change the mood around the world, not just in the UK? Change the mood and try and get the message out that why can't you have a beer in the morning for breakfast? Why is it demonized? Why is it okay to have a latte in the morning before starting work with 11 sugars? Why is it okay to turn into work and drink a Monster before you start work and completely send your heart rate through the roof? Why is it okay to drive? And this is the biggest key. Modern day life probably requires you to drive to work. I know you can drink one beer and drive. But I know what I would prefer to do. In the morning, I prefer to have one beer rather than a Red Bull or a Monster, then jump in the car for a good half hour or 45 minutes, travelling to work with my heart rate going through the roof, full of caffeine, full of all of the other nasty things that are in these energy drinks. Unbelievable that you can drive what is a ton of steel down a motorway at 70 mile an hour off a can of Red Bull or a Monster. Have you seen the ingredients? Next time you're in the supermarket, pick up a can of this stuff and read the ingredients. It's the stuff of nightmares. It's the stuff from a horror movie. So that's my conclusion, really. Stop demonizing beer. It's been around for thousands of years. Did you know in the UK it's the second highest in Europe? The taxation rate on beer is the second highest in Europe. And in Germany, they love their breweries. They love their beer. They probably still sing about their beer. They dress up for Oktoberfest for their beer. And they still celebrate beer. They do not demonize it. I rest my case, really. I'm pretty sure a German would prefer a beer, would drink a beer for breakfast and not be looked upon as some I don't know, what would I call it? Idiot, if you like. In the UK, if I turned up to work with one beer, I'm sure my boss would call me an idiot. But it shouldn't be the case. The case should be that beer is for breakfast. Let's have beer for breakfast. Let's enjoy beer. Let's celebrate beer. Let's not demonise it anymore. Bring the taxation rate down. Or the other thing to do is to actually raise the taxation on sugary energy drinks and coffee. Thanks for watching this documentary. It was my first. It was filmed by me, myself and I. So sorry for the rough around the edges look and feel about it. But I'm pretty sure I've got my message across today. Beer for breakfast. Cheers. Did you know the last recorded evidence of a school giving the children, the pupils, beer for breakfast was as late as 1830? I'll cheers to that.